Welcome back to Anime Death Spiral, the only anime podcast that believes in a never-ending year of October. He's doing a wolf howl. Not in a sexual way, in a spooky way. We believe in keeping the spooky month going past October 31st because what is scarier than something that keeps on living after it's dead, right?
I refuse to succumb to this Halloween hangover, so I have been taking a lot of hair of the wolf that bit me.
Wow. Oh, were you sitting on that one? That was good. That was really good.
By overindulging, some might even say, myself included. Frankly, I've been disgusted by how much I've been wallowing in my own media consumption recently.
And that's saying something coming from you.
Yes, it is bad, but I have been really deep in these fucking trenches, just mining every last inch of Halloween horror spirit, which we probably mentioned last month, but has been a little thin this year. I'm not gonna lie.
It's been spread thinner and thinner every year since my childhood, it seems. You know, I've long lamented the dying art of Halloween.
We've had thinner years and thicker years. I think this year in particular, it was a little thin. The only horror movie I went and saw in the theater this Halloween year, this financial Halloween quarter, I think was The Substance and Beetlejuice.
Ugh.
I think that was it. Now, The Substance obviously whipped. Incredibly fucking good.
I never got around to seeing that. I heard good things, though.
It's fucking great.
Is that... tell me, apologies if I'm wrong. Is that Demi Moore?
That is Demi Moore. Yes.
Hell yeah.
She's fucking great. She's really, really good in it.
I did see Beetlejuice, but not in a theater. I went to a good old-fashioned 1950 style drive-in movie theater.
Yeah.
With my best gal.
Had a 1950s style cry tantrum over how much you hated it.
Yeah.
Did you watch anything at home? Any home releases? Horror home release?
Oh gosh,
not the same old shit that you watch every Halloween. New stuff. Any new stuff?
I did actually.
Oh, you did?
Maybe this is the venue to talk about it. I watched, and you're not going to believe this. I watched a little movie called VHS Beyond.
Oh, is that anime?
Yeah, that's totally anime. 100%.
Oh, cool.
It's got aliens in it. It's got to be anime, right?
Like Dan to Dan.
Yeah, just like Dan to Dan. They both have aliens.
Dope.
I wish that VHS Beyond had the same soundtrack that Dan to Dan does, but nothing's perfect. I don't know. Did you watch anything? Any home releases? Any new stuff this past Halloween season?
Let's see. What were the big releases this Halloween?
Well, I wouldn't count it as a Halloween release because it came out earlier this year, but I really, really enjoyed Longlegs, Nick Cage.
Yes. I loved Longlegs. That's not a Halloween release.
Not a Halloween release, but...
Not a Halloween release.
If you go by all the marketing, it is the scariest movie of the decade.
Damn, it is so scary.
They put that quote on so many ads.
I'm wondering if I'm thinking of it as purely a October style release.
First of all, everyone knows the best Halloween movies are released in July. That's just a fact of cinema.
Get all the fucking teenagers in there with their dates.
Well, yeah, freaking Halloween came out in July.
I know.
You don't release a horror movie in October. Nobody wants to go see a horror movie in October. They're already over it. You got to follow what's in. You got to follow what's in the stores, right? The stores put out their Halloween decorations in July now, and we got to finish our Christmas movies by late September.
There's the constant accelerationism in all spaces.
And the Hanukkah movies are straight out.
Well, we haven't had a lot of great Hanukkah horror. There's only like one every few years.
Oh, man. Did you see that one? Sorry to derail, but did you see that Hanukkah horror, like slasher movie that came out a couple years ago? with
Which one?
With Sid Haig. It was just called Hanukkah.
No, I did not. I did not see that.
It was bad. Like
I would not watch a horror movie called Hanukkah.
yeah.
I did watch one called The Dybbuk that I liked quite a lot. That one's really great.
Yeah. When was that recent?
Last few years, maybe.
Okay.
There's a couple good ones.
All right.
But I was gonna say, obviously, the big one is Saw, which released every Halloween up until the really bad one, Spiral.
Well, then we got a Saw 10, right? Was that last year or the year before? Within the last few years, we got Saw 10.
Yeah, that was
Saw X.
That was Saw X. That one, unfortunately, did not come out on Halloween. I don't know why.
And we did get no Saw movie this Halloween.
This Halloween, no Saw movie. Probably for the best. No Saw, no Paranormal Activity released this year, but I did see, and I wish I had gone to see in the theaters. I did see Smile 2.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, I was a big Smile defender.
Big Smile head over here.
Big Smile head. And Smile 2 absolutely whipped. I'm so glad I watched it. It fucking rules. People be creepy smiling in that movie, man.
People be creepy smiling in the Smile movie. I did see the first one, and I'm going to be honest, it's like, I don't get it. It wasn't great. It wasn't good, to me at least.
No, you see, they're smiling creepily.
Yeah, no, I got that.
No, I don't think you did. I think you assumed that it was a friendly smile. It's not. They're doing it creepily. That's the whole point. That's why it's called Smile.
Well, it was creepier when they were following, and the movie was called It Follows. That was creepier.
That guy wasn't smiling. He was just big.
Well, there was more than one guy. The thing following could change its shape. It followed in many ways, in many shapes. The big guy was just one of them. But following is, in fact, much creepier than smiling.
Oh, did you know, this is just a little bit of a trivia from what we were talking about before. The It from It Follows is the same It from It Comes at Night. I don't know if people know that, but...
the greater A24
if you pay attention, all the clues are there. And as we move out of October, the death of Halloween, unfortunately, is accompanied by the figurative death of Halloween. R.I.P., a big, huge R.I.P. to Kazuo Umez, the author of Drifting Classroom, Cat-Eyed Boy, 14, etc., etc. One of the greatest manga authors to ever do the thing. Really, this really fucked me up. This is really a bummer.
It's a big loss, without Umez. I think the biggest cultural impact we can all point to is without Umez, there would be no Junji Ito. Like, that is a direct through line of inspiration.
Well, I don't know if I would say the biggest. I mean, that is certainly a big knockdown, a knock-on consequence. But like,
let's be honest with our audience, it is the biggest.
Drifting Classroom and Cat-Eyed Boy in particular, maybe not Cat-Eyed Boy as much, but Drifting Classroom is like one of the biggest Japanese horror properties that has ever been. And that's all Umez, baby.
Well, let's pour one out for the real homies.
Yeah, I'm really bummed about this. I really, really like, we talked so much about various horror manga. You made the outrageous claim that anime can't be scary, but manga can, because you can rake your eyeballs in slow motion across the page.
That's true. It's true, and I stand by the statement. Being able to control your own pace of the story is much creepier. That's done. I've made my point.
I'm not arguing. I can't argue against.
You can't argue against it.
You can read as fast as slow as you want. That is true.
It's an objective fact.
It's objectively true.
And I don't want to hear anything about people who watch or listen to stuff at 1.5 speed. They're monsters. Much more than anything that I've ever done. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that is true, of course, but you do watch movies with subtitles on, even when they're in English, so I really think you need to, like, keep your powder dry on some of this shit. If I were you, that's what I would do.
Movies are meant to be played with subtitles.
No, don't even. I read a lot, as we've established, a lot of horror manga, and Kazuo Mez is responsible for a lot more than just Junji Ito. Obviously, I've talked about how much I love Kaneko Inuki, who is sort of a direct disciple of Kazuo Mez. If you look at her art, it becomes incredibly clear. She is doing her own spin on exactly like the Kazuo Mez signature, which is a freaky little child with long eyelashes making this face. What?
It's like Kazuo Mez is like the dark mirror version of that artist. I cannot remember her name, but who did all the Big Eyes paintings from like the 70s.
Yeah, kinda, yeah. He has such an incredibly particular thing that all of his characters do that I find just endlessly fucking charming. Kazuo Mez's sweaty child face is up there with any Western hallmark, at least to me, in my heart.
You know, you and I think that generally we have a much more eclectic vision of what horror is than a lot of people.
I definitely have gone out of my way to read a lot of horror manga, which can sometimes be a little harder to find, and separate from just the gross shock manga, which is much more prevalent than like actual horror shit. There's plenty of manga that is like considered horror, but just ends up being gross. You know, that is a huge genre unto itself that I am not as big a fan of. But I will go out of my way to find things like, you know, I've been reading 100 Ghost Stories. Let me find the author's name.
I assume it's probably more than 100 ghost stories at this point.
It is called 100 Ghost Stories of My Own Death by Matono Anji. It is really good. This is also, like Kaneko Inuki, a mangaka who's very inspired by Kazuo Umez. So I would say if you have any affection or familiarity with Umez, you should go out and find 100 Ghost Stories of My Own Death. And according to my count, there is exactly 90 ghost stories so far. And I'm very much looking forward to the 100th one. This is a really unique series because it is an anthology, but much like your beloved VHS, there is a bumper wraparound story that progresses by 1 or 2 pages per chapter,
with a host who's promising a prize to the lucky reader who reads the 100th ghost story first, right?
Well, if you consider the suicide of a small child the prize, you fucking horrible monster.
Hey, maybe that child was a dick. I don't know. I'm not judging.
He seems okay. The premise is each chapter opens with him setting up what we assume to be maybe his like camera phone on his desk, and he addresses us directly. He goes, "Okay, I'm telling you, today's going to be the 10th story, the 15th story, etc." And then like maybe we'll get like 1 or 2 hints of what's happening around him. But as it continues, we slowly realize like he's building to something. And the series is called 100 Ghost Stories of My Own Death, so make of that what you will. But it's very good, and I'm very excited. And he has a very unique art style that is his own, but also kind of Umez-inspired. So I think it fits really well. Let's see. In honor of Umez, I did read a few other horror comics. There's one called Shikabane Kaigo that I just started reading recently. I think it just started. This one is in more of a kind of a European ghost story tradition. This one's by Biora Harumi.
Okay.
Stop me if this sounds kind of familiar. A woman is sent deep into the countryside to a decrepit manor to work as a caretaker / homekeeper for a mysterious old woman. And weird things are happening.
So it's ringing some bells, but go on.
Yeah. This woman she's like an ex-nurse who apparently like couldn't hack it. So she decides to get into caretaking. When she shows up at this mansion, the other caretakers take her to introduce her to the old lady that they're taking care of. And in the first chapter, this is not a spoiler because this is the hook of the first chapter, but when they introduce her, the old lady is clearly dead and has been dead for probably a long time.
Oh, this is Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, a horrific, awful Weekend at Bernie's. And the mysteries start piling on from there.
Like, who killed the old lady? Where's the person that killed the old lady? Why did they kill the old lady? Did the old lady deserve it? Probably. She was rich.
I mean, probably. No, she definitely deserved it. I mean, there's no question there. Why would people pretend that a dead body is alive if they're not going to inherit all the money from changing the will or something? I don't know.
I mean, the obvious answer is probably because everyone was just too lazy to change their routine, right? I could understand that.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't like changing my routine, so I guess I can relate.
No, it's like, hey, the boss died. Like, what do we do? It's like, I don't, like, even if we're not in the will, like, are we still collecting a paycheck? Because if so, then keep calm and carry on, I guess. That's all I care about. I just want my paycheck, and I just want to grill. And I'll push around an old lady corpse if need be.
On one hand, I really don't want to have to find a new job.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
the job market, the economy right now, it's like,
no, it's awful. It's terrible. Then again, you do have to like wash the body of a corpse every day. Tough. That's tough.
Yeah, but have you ever worked at McDonald's? Like, I know which one I'd choose.
I've got one more in the Kazuo Mez mold. I have also been reading In the Spirit of Kazuo.
Okay.
In loving memory of Kazuo, even though I started it a while ago. I've been reading Souboutei Must Be Destroyed by Fujita Kazuhiro, who is, of course, the author of Yushio and Tora and Karakuri Circus. Are you familiar with those?
No, I don't think I am.
I think the Karakuri Circus anime is on Amazon right now, if anybody wants to watch that. But I don't think there's an anime of Souboutei Must Be Destroyed, which, frankly, I think is much, much better than Karakuri Circus.
It's like a Kill Bill kind of story?
The characters are out to destroy something, so I guess in that way it is.
But just to be clear, we do not see Uma Thurman's feet.
No, I think Fujita Kazuhiro is not a big feet guy.
Okay, well, I keep going, I guess.
Souboutei is a haunted house. And so at the beginning of the series, we have a character who's living next to a haunted house. And he's like, damn, I wish I wasn't living next to a haunted house. And so one day his new neighbor's kid like stumbles out of the haunted house. And he's like, the haunted house ate my dad.
Okay.
And where you would usually think this story in any other medium, this story would then become about him and this kid like going into the haunted house and being spooked out by ghosts, right?
That's the natural progression.
Yeah.
Of these types of things, sure.
Well, instead of that, the next thing that happens is the Prime Minister of Japan authorizes a domestic airstrike on the ghost house.
Yes.
He drops missiles onto the haunted house.
See, I was about to make a joke about how, like, oh, they should go to the homeowners association. Is that what they're called?
Don't you own a home?
They should have gone to the HOA. They would have sent a sternly worded letter to that ghost house. But no, I like dropping missiles on it much better.
Yeah, instead of going to the HOA, they went to the JSDF, and who scrambled F-14s. To drop ballistic weaponry directly onto the haunted house. And guess what? That shit don't blow up.
Now, is it like the explosion happens and then the smoke clears and, oh, the house is undamaged? Or I would prefer like kind of a Dan Harmon's Monster House situation where the house maybe opens up with the big house mouth, like where the roof like cracks open and the broken planks of the teeth, and then it eats the missiles, and then it does kind of like a cartoon, like chewing motion, right? It's like swishing them around in its mouth, and then it spits it back at the planes.
Oh, well, you'd love this shit then, because when the smoke clears, yes, the house is still standing. They have essentially wiped out like 6 or 7 city blocks around the mansion. And people are pretty pissed off about that. So the next thing the prime minister does is send in endless waves of demolition crews. But when the demolition crews try to tear the house down using their demolition equipment, the house absorbs and then spits out the equipment, killing every fucking demolitions and construction worker in the area with their own equipment.
So this is like a direct answer to all those idiots in horror movies that watch horror movies and say like, oh, why don't they just blow up the haunted house? Why don't they just use dynamite?
Yes, exactly. This is the refutation of all those dumbasses. So the prime minister then, and this is actually kind of where the story does begin.
They just send in Rambo.
Well, the prime minister establishes competing strike forces with a combination of JSDF forces and incredibly well-known paranormal researchers and psychics and shrine maidens and like ghost sword wielders and Buddhist monks.
Okay, so it's Foxhound from Metal Gear Solid. It's just a bunch of fucking supernatural military weirdos.
It kind of is. There's some asshole from Harvard who believes in ghostology, and he's got like his research team with him.
What was that Ryan Reynolds movie? R.I.P.D.
R.I.P.D. Yes,
Yeah.
but he's already dead in that.
True. Did you know that Mike Judge directed that movie? I did not know that.
That's really sad.
Oh, what was that other one? Neil Blomkamp, Demonic, with the Catholic exorcist soldiers.
Yes. Now, in that movie, it's not a haunted house. It is a haunted Oculus Rift.
I was going to say it's a haunted Sims playthrough.
Yeah, it's a little different. I really like that movie. It's so fucking stupid. This series fucking rules. It is as Halloween as you could possibly get. You know, a crazy ass haunted house being fought by like 18 different paranormal exorcist experts.
Do they ever send anybody inside the house?
Oh, they all go in. This is the SWAT team mission. After not being able to,
they're going in the house.
Yeah, they have to go into the house. And it's a fucked up house, dog. It's all fucked up.
I would like to see them explore like the government research angle, like in depth, like, you know, on the outside while they're inside doing whatever. Like you have like a government excavation crew seeing if they can like hollow out the earth underneath the house to see if it floats, right?
Dog, you're going to want to read this then.
Oh shit, all right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
The prime minister story doesn't just go away. The prime minister and all like 18 previous prime ministers all get involved in the demolition of this haunted house. And it like once they get inside, it turns out it's like way more insane than anyone could have ever possibly imagined. Like, it's not just like some kind of like freaky Winchester mystery house shit.
You know, leave it to Japan to make a haunted house horror story about the horrors of military bureaucracy.
It is fan-fucking-tastic. And in the spirit of Kazuo Mez, to tie it back, it is as absolutely fucking insane as you could possibly imagine. I mean, the escalation alone makes this thing insanely unique. Let me just leave it at this. It being a haunted house, even that premise alone is the first step in a very long staircase to the most insane thing I have ever read in a manga. I cannot stress enough. This thing goes places.
I've got to check this out. You know, this does sound up my alley, especially because like one of my favorite haunted house movies and definitely like favorite J-horror movies is, of course, Houseu.
Which rules.
Which rules, obviously. Watch it every Halloween. Love that. I even unfortunately ordered the like special edition anniversary Blu-ray.
Yeah.
That apparently is only region 2 coded and won't play on my American Blu-ray player, which sucks.
What a tragedy that legally you can't do anything about that legally.
Yeah. Yeah,
Impossible to follow the law.
My hands are tied. There's nothing I can do about it. The law, it binds me.
If only you weren't bound by some kind of legal apparatus to only watching Region 1 video. Damn.
All right. Any other spooky stuff on your plate that you wanna get out while the graves are still open before the Christmas lights go up?
I mean, I could go on forever. Obviously, I'm reading so much spooky stuff. I thought those were the most close to sort of the spirit of Kazuo Ume's that I've read recently. I mean, like I said last time, I did read all that Doro stuff, which is Halloween coded, obviously. Hugh Hayashida's short stories in general. You know, she has a short story in a collection called 138 Degrees. And that short story is really fucked up and weird, but not really in a Umez style way. And I've read your general stock of death games and regular kind of horror stuff.
Well, then can I tell you about something horrifying that I watched?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Because
I had to think about it.
You may regret letting me once I explain. Now,
okay.
I watched the first couple episodes of Murai In Love. Now, are you familiar with this one?
I'm only very, very surface level familiar with it. But even on that level, makes me very confused that you chose to watch this willingly. Why did you do that?
Well, like I said before we started recording, I was desperately searching for something to talk about because I always leave my preparation to the last minute in all aspects of my life, not just this show. That's a promise to you, the listener.
Great.
I don't know. This was one of those ones that was actually one of the first of the fall season to premiere, and we completely ignored it. Did not even bring it up in our stuff to look forward to episode for good reason, it turns out. Well, let me set the scene here. We have a love story, a classic rom-com between a girl in or a woman, let's say, in her early 20s. She's 24, going on 25, and kind of middling career, and she is obsessed with otome video games. Visual novels, dating games, specifically a series that is set during like the Tokugawa shogunate.
Yes.
I can't remember what the era name is, but early 1800s, late 1700s samurai fiction, right?
Uh-huh.
And you have her would-be suitor, Murai. He is the Murai from the title. And he has decided in his attempt to woo this lady that he is head over heels in love with,
sure,
he is going to change every aspect of himself to match her favorite otome video game character, so that he can sweep her off her feet.
I guess it's worth a shot.
Right. A bit weird, I guess. I don't know. Even itself, it's a bit cringy to me.
It's a bit cringy, but I've heard worse.
Especially if you're trying to, force these feelings on someone who's very openly expressed their non-romantic intent in life. This lady is very I don't need a boyfriend. I don't need a husband. I'm not interested in that. I just want to focus on my career and play my favorite otome video games because 2D guys are better. That's her perspective.
It's not the worst idea I've ever heard, though.
No, it's not. Now there is one complicating factor in this whole setup here, though. And
I didn't realize there was more.
Yeah, no, there is more, and it may change how the tone of the conversation. Now, you see, Murai and Tanaka, that is the female lead's name. Well, you see, Tanaka, she is his homeroom teacher, and he's a 17-year-old high school student.
I see.
Yeah. Now, isn't that scary?
Oh, no. Oh no.
I honestly did not realize that when I just saw the blurb in the description. It was about a guy trying to mimic this lady's favorite Otome character. And I did not click on the little read more expansion tab that specified that they were teacher and student.
How does he even know about her Otome preferences to begin with if they are teacher student?
Well, you see, that is explained very clearly, and it totally makes sense. You see, one of his friends at the high school, who coincidentally is part of his fan club. You see, he's one of those guys that's like effortlessly cool and has like fan clubs of girl students that follow him around.
That's also really weird. Just like side note, that's really weird.
It's a weird thing. I don't like
That's
it.
a weird thing. If you have a fan club for somebody you go to school with? That's weird, dog.
I mean, what is, that is a step above the YouTube, Twitter parasocial relationship. That's a parasocial relationship.
Well, it's like when I went to school, there were popular kids. I get that concept.
It's a concept that I see pop up in a lot of like anime and manga.
Yeah, I know. I see it a lot, but I just don't understand. I cannot relate to it, and I don't understand how it functions because, like, we all knew who the popular kids were, and you wanted to, like, hang out with the popular kids because it seemed more fun than whatever loser shit you were doing. But nobody was like, wow, I want them to, I don't know, like, I want to buy a picture of them and put it in my, I don't know, my wallet or something. What do? They do weird shit like that.
Yeah, put a picture in your locker, something like that. I don't know. You have like I think a big one is having your phone background screen be a picture of your fave, right?
Oh, you don't want that.
You don't want that?
The second somebody catches you with that shit, you're done. That's game over.
Social suicide. Absolute. It's
Social
the end.
Suicide. Suicide.
So anyway, one of his hangers on, one of his groupies, is actually a semi-famous manga artist on the net.
Wait, what?
Yeah. We're getting into the lore here. It's actually
already meta.
It's actually a twin pair of girls who are his fans. One of them is a famous cosplayer, and the other is a famous Twitter manga artist. And the artist one, the teacher follows the artist student on Twitter because she makes fan art of her favorite Otome character. And using Twitter detective work, they find out that the teacher likes these Otome games.
Damn, that's awful.
And so then he decides to then cut and dye his hair to match this Otome character. And then he also starts going to like comic meetups, like Comiket, where you would buy doujin and stuff like that, and he cosplays as this character specifically in the hope that she is there in the audience looking at him as this character, which she is in disguise, by the way. They never really explain why, but she goes to like comic conventions and comic meetups in like a wig and fake glasses.
Well, no, that makes sense because she has a healthy sense of shame.
But yeah, maybe that is the one healthy aspect of her character poking through.
No, that makes perfect sense.
And so obviously her reaction, because the first episode begins with the gag of him straight up confessing his love to her.
To his teacher,
yes. It is the opening scene. And obviously, like any healthy, sane, functional adult woman, her response is, No, I can't date you. That's ridiculous. You have long black hair, and I only date guys with short blonde hair.
Aha.
Yeah, that's the obvious reason why a teacher wouldn't be able to date their student, right?
But didn't she say that she wasn't interested in dating anyone at all?
Well, that is true, but she thinks she was being coy because when she said she only dates guys with short blonde hair, she was describing her favorite Otome character.
I see.
It's true that she only dates those guys. She never specified whether they were 2D or 3D.
I see. She was playing little mind games.
Yes.
Wow.
Which is something you would expect a normal teacher to do with their male student, right? Who's just
totally.
confessed their romantic intent towards you.
You know, I have heard in recent years more stories of people's high school experiences, and I will say I have heard some very, the world is big. It's a big place. As I heard someone once say, when you are a teacher, you only have one job, and it's not education. It is do not fuck the children. That is literally the only thing you are supposed to do. That is your only job.
Jesus.
That's the truth. That's the truth of high school.
Now,
it's a big fucking babysitting club, and you cannot fuck any of the children.
And that is what I'm very much worried about. The feeling that I'm getting from this narrative is that slowly, over time, she is going to come around on the concept of maybe not following that doctrine to the letter.
Maybe dating one of her students.
Yes.
Because he wore a wig one time.
Well, to be fair, it's not just a wig. He did cut and dye his hair permanently.
Oh, okay.
And it is stated in the narrative that he just naturally, his face just looks like how this character is drawn, I guess. I guess it makes more sense when they're all anime characters to begin with.
Yeah, they all have the same face.
Yeah. That is the opening premise of Murai In Love. That's 2 episodes in that I watched, and there's 9 out currently, so I can only imagine where this goes from here. But it does bring something to mind, and that I place most of the blame on this very obvious child endangerment on the visual novels. Obviously, if they didn't exist, tempting this poor woman into doing these awful acts with her student, it wouldn't be an issue.
I see. You're not blaming cultural values. You're blaming this woman. You're blaming the woman first of all, and you're blaming her because she is obsessed with Otome games.
I'm blaming the Otome games. Video games cannot make you violent, but they can make you date your students.
Sexually deviant.
Yes,
that's what you're saying.
That's my hardline stance.
All right, hold on. Let's take a break. I can't deal with this. Well, Nate, your Otome anime reminds me that horrors never cease. But also, part of this Halloween has been for me trying to wrap my head around how I feel about that genre in particular. Not just that I'm scared of it, but that I have a lot of preconceived notions about it. kind of the visual novel in general. And as much as we say mostly you come off as, you know, a contrarian hater,
Well,
I personally do not like to make a lot of sweeping generalizations and judgmental statements about things that I don't have a lot of firsthand experience with. You know what I mean?
what are you doing with a podcast then? You're playing the game all wrong, bud.
Well, I'm putting in the legwork. You know, I've talked about how I don't have a huge amount of experience with the visual novel, and you even less so.
Again, because like we discussed before, I have a healthy amount of shame for a person my age, and I know what would be an incredibly bad look if I ever like got caught or admitted to playing one of these games. But you go on. I'm very interested to hear what your research has uncovered.
Well, you simply funnel it in a different direction. Me personally, I like to spread it all out. Really get a good amount of surface area. And in that regard, I think I've done most of my spreading, my man spreading in this genre, kind of like on the edges. You know, we've talked about how a lot of these visual novels and things get turned into other media. I don't know if you ever got around to watching any of those live action Phoenix Wright movies, but I'm thinking of like, you know, when I originally encountered Steins Gate, it was the anime. Similarly, like when I first interacted with Fate Stay Night, it was in anime. Something you never followed up with, but you did watch Fate Zero.
I did.
Did
yeah.
Did you finish that? Did you even finish that?
Oh, hell no. It was awful. Why would I finish that? It was exploitative drivel.
He has no commitment to this podcast. He tries to shame me, and yet here we are. And there's many other examples. Like I said, I watched Higurashi, right? I watched the Danganronpa anime. I read Umineko.
I think what you're describing is pretty common for most people, especially in our age group, but I would say people in general. The visual novel format never really took hold in like the West until a much later stage. You know, we're starting to see it now, but it's been around for so much longer. You know, it spawned off of like PC Engine dating games in the 90s. And then like they kind of shifted format over time from what I've seen.
You know, they've been around for a long time. Like our favorite punching bag, Hideo Kojima, was putting out shit like Police Knots in the early 90s, you know?
Or Snatcher.
Snatcher. God, that's a bad name.
It's
bad name.
You know, legally distinct Blade Runner.
But the ones I'd actually played were kind of confined more towards the Phoenix Wright style stuff. And a lot of the stuff that was, I guess most people would consider more pure visual novels, were kind of locked up in Japan and weren't brought over officially for like a long time. Like this first one I wanted to talk about, which is intimately tied together, by the way, with Fate Zero. In my effort to expand my knowledge of the format, the genre, whatever we want to call it, the visual novel. I did a little bit of hunting around to see what people considered good. And again, there's my mistake relying on other people's opinions.
Rookie mistake.
But their opinions led me to Saya no Uta, Song of Saya.
Now I have heard of this in
is infamous.
Whispered dank back rooms in greaser bars,
Yes.
places where real rapscallions hang out, if you know what I mean.
Dens of ill repute.
Yeah.
And yet this somehow ends up on let's say connoisseurs top lists even to this day. This was a visual novel from 2003, re-released around 2011 by the writer of Fate Zero. And even more shocking, well, shocking depending on how you feel about this, but the writer and creator of Puelli Magi Madoka Magica.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I can see some crossover there with Madoka Magica and this kind of like genre.
There are themes the writer does carry forward throughout their work. This is apparently one of the first things they did, and that ended up in kind of a professional context. Song of Saya was what is described as a psychological horror visual novel. I don't know why I wanted to start with this one in my current round. I think because it does seem like from 2003, from kind of like in Japan at least the heyday.
It's a good vintage, yeah.
Yeah, of the really like the burst of the visual novel explosion, something that was more like back rooms internet thing suddenly becoming more of a profitable business. Home computing becoming more popular, which allowed people to publish their own games onto the internet where other people could not steal them and pay for them and download them. You know, this is obviously when stuff like Higurashi, like Clanad, like some of the other bigger ones. I'm trying to think of one of like the other big ones. Oh, like the Tsukihime games, right? Or Phoenix Wright actually ended up being sort of like around there. There was the Muv-Love games.
Throwing out Angel Beats comes up here. I don't know if that sounds familiar.
I don't know Angel Beats.
Danganronpa, did you already say that?
Oh yes, of course, Danganronpa, which is, you know.
Or Kanon.
Canon?
Yeah, Canon.
Yeah, Canon. Sure, yeah. I think Police Knots and Tokimeki Memorial came out like around the same time, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
If that's true, then it's absolutely shameful to Hideo Kojima how much better of a game Tokimeki Memorial is than Police Knots.
Hey, look, he was working at a different style altogether. It's probably not his fault.
I suppose so, but
who knows?
Tokimeki Memorial is a good game.
Well, do you know who made Tokimeki Memorial? Because this blew my mind when I learned it a while back.
Was it? I'm probably getting this wrong. Was it Iwatani?
No, it was legendary creator of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Koji Igarashi.
Igarashi, I was close. Yeah. I was in the same ballpark. You were close.
Yeah. That blew my mind.
I knew that. I knew it was one of those guys. Yeah. I love that interview with him around when the game released in Japan, and they're asking him about it, and they're like, the reporters being somewhat like being polite, but like condescending in that way that Japanese people can be to each other. And he's just like, why did you make this game for losers that don't have girlfriends? And he's
brutal.
His response was basically just like, I made a game about a girl that I wanted to date in college. Like, that's why I made this. I never got to date this girl, so I made a game where I got to date her.
I made her into the game, and then I dated the game.
It's so painfully awkward.
That is brutal, man. I mean, he is definitely a fedora guy. Like, even when Castlevania was hitting, he was a fedora guy.
I don't think you can look at the character of Alucard and not think that he was created by an incel.
It's pretty wild that, like, that dude made two incredibly popular video game series, and they're two of the most distinct possible games and styles that you could imagine. Like, Tokimeki is huge. They made it, like, I don't know, 300 of those fucking things. And same with Castlevania. All from one fedora guy. Wow. The world is strange.
Fedora's tip to you, Igarashi.
Yeah.
I guess, is that your review of what game were you talking about? Song of Saya?
Song of Saya. No, the creator of Song of Saya did go on to make the incredibly popular Puelli Magi Madoka Magica, which does have like 100 spin-offs. So, also successful, but not Igarashi successful. And Song of Saya, not as successful in any way as Tokimeki Memorial, I have to say. Song of Saya is A really good case study, though, if you want to like get into the mind of the late 90s, early 2000s, like visual novel kind of dude, because it is as visual novel as you could get. This is paging through walls of text, the illustrated backgrounds, illustrated character art that occasionally changes based on, what the character is saying. They'll have like a facial expression change, right? But mostly what it says on the tin, it is a visual novel. In Song of Saya, there does happen to be 3 separate occasions where you are allowed a binary choice, leading to 3 different endings. They are radically different endings, but they're not good or worth it in any way. There's no reason for them to exist because the narrative drives towards one particular conclusion the entire time.
Well, is it one of those situations, what's the graph where it's like, 3 doors and then on the other side they all go into the same hallway? Is it one of those kind of things?
No. I mean, I will give them credit. They don't just do the like pretend choices. It's just that if you choose one of the other choices, especially there's one not early on, there's like one halfway through where you think, oh, this is a really radical choice. This is really going to change the story. And behind door number 2 is just a dead end. Instead of like a continuation of the story, it's just like, oh, and then this is a sad thing that happened, and then the story was over.
I see. It is a hidden bad ending as opposed to a actual narrative branch.
Yeah, so it's a bad ending in the quality term, and like it's an insufficient ending to the narrative that I was told up to this point.
Sure. This is very only remotely similar, but it reminds me of a feeling that I had when playing Prey 2018.
Oh, really?
Yes. There's a segment maybe 3/4 of the way through where it gives you the option of like, oh, because the point of the game is you're trying to get off this space station.
Right.
And it gives you at one point the option of finding a hidden escape capsule in the CEO's office or whatever.
Yes.
And you can climb in it and activate it and get off of it. And if you do that, the game straight up says like, yeah, the game's over, but this is the bad ending. You chose the ending where you didn't actually finish the game. And that's...
Hey, good job, idiot.
Yeah, good job, idiot. And I always felt a little bit bitter about that because you genuinely do have to go through a few hoops to find that like escape hatch, escape pod ending. And then the narrative punishes you for following through on it.
Sure. Which is why Moon Crash is the best version of that game. But I don't want to get too sidetracked.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, that was my tangent.
No, it does suck when you are led to believe that you are going to have a branching story, right? Mm-hmm. Where you can make these choices and see how different interactions can play out. And that is one of the promises of the visual novel. I mean, unlike Prey, you're not running around shooting stuff. You are reading a story and then being handed a sometimes ternary, most usually binary choice, which is supposed to determine how the story plays out. And in that way, they end up feeling, and this is a prevailing notion I got all the way through Song of Saya, they end up feeling a little bit like fan fiction.
Yeah, I can see that.
There is a style of amateur writing, and I don't mean that in the dismissive way. I mean that in like I am new to writing fiction and I am self-publishing style. But Song of Saya also does embody the dismissive amateur style because it is very badly written. It is a badly written visual novel. The person who wrote it is bad at writing. At the time they wrote this, they were not very good at it. I'd love to just blame it on the translation, but it clearly isn't. The person who wrote it themselves is not a very good fiction writer. And Song of Saya's narrative is not very good. The premise is the protagonist wakes up after a horrific car crash that has killed his parents. And in the car crash, he has suffered severe brain damage. And instead of, affecting him in other ways, it has given him this sort of like audio visual perception problem where the world around him looks grotesque and sounds grotesque. And I guess feels and tastes and smells grotesque as well. It kind of an assault on all five senses. He describes it as sort of like living in a meat dimension, almost like
okay, so kind of like a Cronenbergian kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. Sort of like what if Cronenberg did Silent Hill?
Sure. Okay. Flesh world.
Yeah, Flesh world. And he's trapped in this awful place, and he cannot like live here. Everything horrifies him in the entire world, except one person. This little girl that he met when he was recovering in the hospital, who is the only person that still looks human to him.
That immediately makes me suspicious.
Yeah. For many different reasons, I would imagine.
So many different reasons. Many of them involve a $4,000 fine.
Yeah, oh, no kidding. Instead of like telling a doctor or somebody like, hey, I'm having these like, auditory visual processing issues, he decides to completely cover it up and try to pretend he's like living his normal life, even though everyone around him is like, dude, you are clearly fucked up. But instead of addressing that, he just lies constantly and then goes
relatable.
home. Yeah, goes home to his newly found child bride.
Okay, that took a leap.
Oh, yeah. No, he takes the little girl home with him and lives with her. Yeah.
This is truly horrifying.
It's as real, there are a couple of jump scares involved with his relationship with the little girl that I was not emotionally prepared for, but in the grand tradition of fan fiction writing, those also don't matter in any way. The only thing that matters is that it turns out the little girl is, of course, a horrifying extra-dimensional monster, and that's why she's the only thing that appears human to him.
Sure.
Because he's had his disgusting and normal light switches flipped in his brain.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Yep.
Any brain surgeon will tell you that there's a specific spot. You just press it and it switches everything to the opposite world.
Yep. There's an opposite world button in your brain, and sometimes when you're in a car crash, it gets flipped. No other explanation is ever proffered for that particular plot contrivance, by the way. We get long, lengthy explanations of everything else, but we never get that explained to us. So, cool. Great. As you toil along reading through this game, which ended up being, we played through all three endings, and that ended up being probably like 6 hours worth of visual novel. A grueling 6 hours. We first hit an ending where the game offers us a very clear split. This is a very visual novel thing. Hey, do you want to just bounce out here, or do you want to keep seeing the story? And I chose to bounce out because this is bad, and it was upsettingly bad in a lot of different ways.
No, that's playing by their rules. That's exactly what they want.
I'll take the bait. I don't care. In the first ending, once our main character catches on to the fact that his child bride is an extra-dimensional being, he asks her to fix his brain. And of course, the choice is, do you want to ask her to fix your brain? Yes, no. Like, it's straight up like that. And if you choose yes...
Fix my brain, please.
You can be like, hey, fix my brain, please, little girl. And she'll be like, oh, okay. And you just get one tiny little epilogue that's like, and then he lived the rest of his life in a white room. And it's like, okay, great. If you continue along, you do get the true endings, which is essentially boils down to a choice between a kind of bad ending and a really bad ending. The kind of bad ending is just straight up H.P. Lovecraft stock ending number 1.
The unknowable horror made me lose my mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Main character, not even main character, a character encounters, he has a a dangerously close brush with the unknowable evil and survives but ends up going insane. The other ending being our characters all have a brush with unknowable evil, and unknowable evil ends the world. Cool, great. And all throughout, there is a child bride, and it doesn't get any less weird the entire time.
Now, I have one quick question.
Yeah.
And maybe you can clear this up for me.
Sure.
Why, when I Google Song of Seiya,
Not Saint Seiya.
and go over to the images tab,
Song of Saya.
Song of Seiya, that's what I said.
Saya.
Saya.
They say it a million times in the game. I gotta be clear.
Saya.
Yeah, Saya.
Now,
Saya no
why is
Uta.
it that when I go search for Song of Saya and go to the images tab?
Oh, don't do that. No.
Why is everything blurred out?
Don't do
Why
that.
is everything blurred out with the
I
parental
should've-
protections I put up to preserve my innocence?
I really should have clarified. Do not Google image search Song of Saya. In fact, don't search for it at all. I regret ever allowing this thing on my computer.
Am I going to have to get the law involved?
I can't make any
Do we
promises.
need to call the police on Japan for making this game?
Let me say, when I downloaded it originally, I was a little curious as to why the version I downloaded was called Director's Cut.
Oh, no.
And that was not the version that was available on Steam for some reason. Which leads me to my other point about early 2000s visual novels. These tended to be very thinly veiled excuses for people to just draw amateur hentai.
Ah, there it is. There's the crux of it.
Yup. And even though I was led to believe that Song of Saya was mostly like a narrative psychological horror game, it did have like a lot of porn in it.
So,
Not enough to be like a porn game, which was very confusing to me, but enough to not just be like a game with sex in it.
it's not porn.
Yeah.
Listen, I know it when I see it, and that porn, that's porn.
You would think if you did want to play a porn game, though, you'd want most of it to be porn, though, right? And this is my biggest confusion with the game.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, are you saying that Welcome to the NHK wasn't lying or exaggerating when they said all of the people who enjoy and all of the people who make visual novel games are horrible gooners who have no social skills?
I can't deny it, but like when that happens in Welcome to the NHK, I don't want to immediately agree with it. I want to be like, wait, hold on a second. I don't have a huge depth of knowledge. My visual novel bench isn't super deep, but I don't want to just cynically believe that this entire art form is just like shallow excuses to like jerk off to really like badly done hentai. There's got to be more to it.
Okay,
than
well,
that.
there's got to be another title that you played to refute that,
Well,
right?
I'm digging into the catalog. I have played visual novels, like I said. You know, I've played mostly kind of more gameplay-y ones, which maybe is the saving grace. I think maybe the more gameplay-y ones are less porny. So far, that's the conclusion I have to draw, because I've played, like I said, I've played a bunch of Phoenix Wright. I've played Ghost Trick. I've played 999. I've watched but played a little bit of Danganronpa. I've played Citizen Sleeper. I've played the Red Strings Club. I've played Valhalla, Cyberpunk Bar, or whatever the fuck that's called. You know, I'm not familiar with the genre, but I'm not like fucking around here. I've been to places.
Okay.
Song of Saya was my first kind of excursion into what we would consider deep, deep visual novel. And unfortunately, I came away without refuting that claim that deep visual novel is just amateur fan fiction with bad hentai inserted into it. I'm still continuing my investigation, but I have yet to refute that incredibly cynical claim, unfortunately.
All right, well, I guess the research is still out for now.
Yes, I will say I am moving on. I'm playing some other ones. I've got Doki Doki Literature Club queued up. That's a very big one, very notorious one.
Now, even I have absorbed some peripheral information about that just because of how meteoric its like rise kind of in the background of this subject was. It seemed for a while everyone was talking about Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yes, I think because its direct relationship with Tokimeki Memorial and Clanad, right? Because
Sure.
it takes those particular games and the kind of more otome thing in general that those games blew up and says, hey, what if this was horror, essentially? What if we took everyone's assumptions about Clanad and Tokimeki Memorial and we allowed them to we allowed those people to feel good about their choice of playing this game because it's not those. It's quote unquote smarter or a quote unquote subversion of Tokimeki Memorial, which allows arrogant Westerners to feel better about playing them. That's my read. As a person who has yet to play Doki Doki Literature Club, that is my assumption about the game. And I know I'm not being very charitable, but that's where I'm at. Before I start the game, I will report back when I am done with it.
Okay, all right. Without going into any spoilers or would-be spoilers, all I know about it is that it is, to use a term that the kids like, it is meta about the whole visual novel thing. So I guess keep that in mind.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things is, like, again, we are living in a post Higurashi world. And Higurashi was very much this idea that what I assume Doki Doki Literature Club is playing with, in that it is being subversive with the form and it is being playful with the format of the visual novel, because Higurashi's big move was like, hey, what if these like silly kind of slice of life visual novel things, what if there was like something lurking in the depths of them that if you keep playing, you uncover a horrible truth behind this? And what if the act of playing visual novels themselves is what like distorts that truth into something horrifying? That's kind of what Higurashi is.
Yeah, but that is also just what visual novels do. Again, I'm going back to my statement before the break. I am hardline. Visual novels turn you into a sexual deviant and pervert. So that's really just playing into my argument here.
I'm really trying. Maybe that's the point of my exploration here. Is I'm really trying to refute that claim. But so far, after having played through Song of Saya, I cannot do it. I think that the big takeaway and what I want to end with Song of Saya in particular with, and I will be talking about other ones because I'm doing this thing. But I will say in Song of Saya in particular, and I know people aren't like out here saying Song of Saya is like the be all end all, like a perfect visual novel or whatever. I know people have a lot of misgivings, and there's only some people who are putting it on their like best of lists. But the fact that this is considered a good visual novel to begin with is already a condemnation of the form, because just on technical level, the art isn't good.
I mean, it's not just damning of the form. It's damning of the entire consumer base as well. That's what I'll say.
Well, again, I'm trying not to go that hard on it, but I will say people who like Song of Saya and are willing to defend Song of Saya, y'all, putting all of my judgment, my personal judgment aside, this is a bad-looking game that is not very well written on a technical level. This is a bad-looking game with an incredibly like year one creative writing class level of literature ambition. It's bad. And boy, writing sex scenes is hard. I know that. Lots of great writers stumble and fall when it comes to writing physical intimacy. But boy, there's the writing when it comes to the sex scenes in this game is jaw-droppingly awful.
Well, I mean, a healthy understanding of the human condition and like intimacy and like social dynamics is counterintuitive to the type of person that is required to make these games. So there's really no way around that problem. I don't know what to tell you.
There's definitely that. There's also the thing I will continue to say about essentially all of this shit in anime, games, movies, comics, whatever. If you are going to write about sex, have sex once. At least one time before you do it. I am begging you.
You can't ask such a steep price of all these people. It's impossible.
Just try it one time before you write it or write about it. I am begging you.
I like the implication in your statement is that they are... like for some, like inaction is somehow the reason these people cannot have sex. Other than, it's not the fact that they're horribly like undesirable in every aspect. No, it's because they simply haven't gone out and grabbed a sex yet.
Look, you gotta know your own strengths and weaknesses. I'm not saying I am an adherent to the write what you know philosophy of creative literature, but try it one time. That's all I'm saying. There is a moment in this game where they literally do the 40-year-old virgin bags of sand moment. They just do that.
Like a big old bag of sand.
They just do it. It's like, come on. You can't do this.
Her boobs boobed boobily like a bag of clay.
It is jaw-dropping. It is astonishing. I know this was 2003. It was a different time. We were all new to the internet in some way or another. But this is not okay, you guys. This is not okay. If this is considered what is a good visual novel, it's making me feel very pessimistic about the rest of this project. That's where I'll leave off. That's where I'm at.
Okay, before we close out this topic, what is your list here? So, Song of Seiya and Doki Doki Literature Club, what else?
Oh, I've got a bunch, and I've started some of them as well. So, Song of Seiya, Doki Doki Literature Club, Noja, which I've played a lot of, which is a very interesting and unique visual novel that I quite like. I'm also going to play Corpse Party, Your Turn to Die, Fate of the Majority. I tend to prefer the death game ones, the horror ones in general. So that's kind of where I land with most of this stuff. Like I said before, I'm not a huge on the Otome side, the dating game side. But I'll probably try some of those as well. Slay the Princess, because I don't want to just play like Japanese ones. Raging Loop is another one that is pretty well known in the community that I'm going to try. I might even try Umineko, but that is such a huge time investment. And also I've read a lot of the manga and I think it's bad as well. I've got some other ones. People talk a big game about House of Fata Morgana. Have you heard of that?
No.
This is a fairly well-known visual novel that people will talk a pretty big game about. This one is not that old. This is actually still fairly recent. Let me see. When did this come out? 2012. Sorry. Initial release 2012. And I think a re-release came out recently because there is like I think there is a Switch version of both this and Raging Loop.
Okay.
But I've heard mixed things about that, but people seem to think that's like one of the good ones. Again, people talk a big game about stuff like Muv-Luv, right? I might have to end up playing a Muv-Luv game.
Well, it sounds like you have your work cut out for you. I eagerly await the results of this social experiment.
Yes. Well, hey, are there any that you are curious about while I am still compiling my list?
The
Katawa Shoujo.
Yes, that was the one that I was about to bring up. That's like the big one that you hadn't mentioned yet that I've heard about forever. Katawa Shoujo, which is
Shoujo.
Yeah, the one in the trauma like recovery ward in a hospital.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've heard mixed things about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like kind of the I haven't played any of like kind of the novelty ones like Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, Hatoful Boyfriend. The KFC one, dating the fucking Colonel from KFC, that one. I'm probably not going to play the big ones like Fate's Day Night. Because again, like I said, or Tsukihime, I have like watched the anime, so I don't want to get involved in that. Like I said, again, I have watched the animes for Danganronpa, so I'm not going to fuck with that. I've played Zero Escape. I've played Phoenix Wright. I've watched Steins Gate. And I guess I can't really think of any other big ones.
You know, I would be interested if you went back after these, like the modern visual novel stuff.
Yeah.
And played one or two of those Tokimeki Memorial games that got released in English. I think that you'll find that they're actually, in terms of their structure, from what I can tell, much closer in, construction to like a Persona game, right? It's much more about it's not so much a visual novel as it is a calendar optimization simulator, right? Yes. You're not really playing through scenarios. You are going through the day-to-day life of this singular character. And you do encounter like romantic situations throughout the day, depending on your decisions, talking to people. But it is much more focused on the time management aspect and the date management, by which I mean calendar date, not a dato, a dato, as they would say in anime.
Sure. And some of the bigger visual novels also do stuff like that. I'm trying not to go too biased towards visual novels with quote unquote gameplay, because I don't want to like muddy up the results, But there are a fair amount of them where, like Slay the Princess, for example, there is a heavy emphasis on looping, using a lot of the kind of like choose your own adventure stuff as a big gameplay element, right? And there's more than just Tokimeki. There are a couple other ones that lean more into kind of time management stuff, which I'm very interested in. Mm-hmm. But it's funny that you say the Persona thing, because I think playing Metaphor : Re Fantasio is one of the things that gave me the idea to go back and kind of try some of these.
You said I'm spending too much time in like combat encounters and not enough time choosing dialogue options on a static screen.
Yeah, maybe, because I got to tell you, I haven't mentioned it before, but I did have to stop playing Metaphor because something happened in the story that was so fucking stupid, I could not bring myself to keep playing. Yeah. So gameplay was not the problem with that. It was the incredibly bad writing choices.
That keeps popping up in this genre.
Strange.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that's anime.
That is anime for the week.
That's anime.
Which I guarantee you is the only thing that's happened this week. Anime is the only thing in the news. And we are happy to bring it to you. We're your anime guys.
Well, I did mention Kazuo Omez. That's the only thing in the news as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but that's anime.
Oh, that's anime. You're right.
Yeah, no, that's anime.
Oh, that reminds me. Gotta get my hands on that live-action Cat-Eyed Boy movie. Gotta find a copy of that.
Okay, I have run this well dry on visual novels and anime for the week. Do you have any closing statements, or shall we bid adieu to the beautiful, tall, handsome listeners that accompany us every week?
Nekome Kozo. You find a copy of that, you send it my way.
Hey, you find a copy of that, kid, you send it my way.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to end up watching Terrifier at some point, which I'm not looking forward to.
Okay, listeners, thank you once again for sticking around. I assume if you're still here listening to this, you stuck around.
Yes. Next week, we will be reviewing Arcane Season 2.
Oh, God, does that mean I have to watch season 1?
Yes.
I don't even like League of Legends.
Too bad. I don't either. I'm a Dota guy. I've said that so many times. I hate League of Legends. More than you do. Believe me. But hey, Ella Purnell, she's so hot right now.
That is true. That is true. That Fallout Season 2, fast-tracking that. We're going to get that soon enough. So that's something to look forward to, I suppose.
Yep. We'll be back in 1 week with a review of Arcane Season 2.
Season 2.
The only good American anime.
Oh, God. Okay.
All right.
You know what? No, I can't. It's so fucking ghoulish that you say that right on the heels of the cancellation announcement for Scavenger's Reign.
That's not anime. That's not anime.
All right.
I will put my foot down. That is not anime.
It's French, therefore it's anime. Okay, do the social stuff. Blue Sky, download, 5 stars. Okay, bye.
You know, when we were talking about how like horror anime keeps turning into battle shonen, horror visual novels keep turning into hardcore pornography. That is the big problem with the genre. It is a bit of an issue.